going live. The
Perfect.
meeting is now being live streamed. Got it. So what I'll do, just bear with me. I'm just going to go to my Facebook page because I did one last night, on the I did one last night. It was quite a hard hitting one last night about overcoming trauma and things.
Uh,
So I did
Amazing.
that and got quite a few comments in and things like that. So I seem they seem to be using me, right, as some sort of get out there and tell him how it goes, Joe. That type of thing. So, Kristin, my love, nice to see you.
It's
And
so good to see you again. I missed you.
I've missed you too. And we were just talking there. It's like playing out in the primary school, in the school playground with all my friends. I used to love going to the primary school. I loved it. I can still
Mhm.
remember, and we're talking 60 odd years ago now. I can virtually still remember all the people in the class. You
Oh,
know,
me too. And I remember even like birthdays of a lot of people because our teacher made this like almost like a calendar, but it was like a circle with all the names, like it was like a pie, right? A cake with the months and then the names of everyone with the birthdays, and we like pulling the arrow towards the one that had birthday. So I like I remember the birthday of so many in my class. And I
it's
really
great.
enjoyed elementary school as well.
I loved it, but I think I shared with somebody recently, but I like to play with the girls, right? And because I always felt threatened by the boys, right?
Yeah.
Even that went on until in my later life as well. The only time I ever felt like I fitted in with fellas was when I was drunk, really. So that
Uh,
almost like the alcohol helped me to fit in
yeah.
to the society of men, and when I didn't have any alcohol in me, I felt that sensitive that I felt more comfortable with women,
Yeah.
which got me into trouble in later life, but that's another story.
How it goes,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
So let, we sort of started this off, didn't we, with the language of light and love, you
yes.
know, and that's what we do. We did some light language things, which will come in today. I've got some new ones coming in, new frequencies and new dialects, but I've
Wow.
got new pictures as well because the blue beings have
Mhm.
almost like taken a back seat, and what's taken their place is, and I don't know who they are or where they come from, but clear pictures of white beings with white sort of cloak things on with gold bands now. So this
Yeah.
is like a white one, like I've said to people before, Kristin, I don't really know what's going on, to be quite honest with you. I just go with it. And what I found fascinating was over the weekend, I watched a conference. Elsa Dillon, my good friend, was in it, and it was called Portal to Ascension.
Mm.
And there were quite a few people talking about light language there. But what I like as well is there was a lot of quantum science that went with it as well,
Oh
because
my
that's what I enjoy more than anything else, because it's deep in me, the scientist, and I
goodness.
like to see how things fit together, really. You
Oh,
know,
that's super interesting.
so there was people doing light language, and when you can pick up the dialect straight away and go, I know that one. I don't exactly know what it's saying, but I can feel a resonance with it. You know,
Yes.
but there's other stuff coming with me as well now. And in the week, and I've mentioned this to Elsa, in the week I normally have this black dragon that's with me with red tipped claws. It's my protection. That's almost taken a back seat now. And what's
Mhm.
come to the fore is the dinosaurs now. I'm with the dinosaurs, right? And I got this clear picture of one. I thought, oh, don't start. So I looked at all the dinosaurs, and you've guessed it, yeah, T-Rex, right? Well, I got T-Rex. So it's almost like I've got this T-Rex thing looking after me now and guiding me in some way. And it's got
Wow.
razor sharp teeth, which are glistening, right? But it won't be messed with. And that's how I've sort of felt this week. I've felt more and more energy come in as if to cut through all the crap and the nonsense that's going on.
Present.
That looked like it was some sort of a resonant frequency going on there. Over
Yes.
to you, old chap.
I would love first though to hear how you experience the frequency of the dinosaurs compared to the frequency of the dragons.
Yeah, well, it's deeper. It's deeper, because when I was talking to Elsa, when I did the rock voice, she calls it rock voice, and she calls that before maketh man. So it's
Mm.
before maketh man. So it's coming from the rocks and star formations, and then it seems to move up then through some sort of a dinosaur period, which moves into a reptilian type period, right? And then it moves into the great ooze, really, and then we we move from mud skippers then and back onto the land, So out of this great primordial ooze, there's
Yeah.
a movement, and I sort of get the whole evolution of mankind coming through right from source itself.
Yes.
So the frequency of the T-Rex that's coming through is deeper, right, than the dragon one as well, because the dragon's more closer to the human, I think. Now, this could be nonsense, but it could be true, but I'm just trying to explain what's happening to me.
I love that. I think it relates to my experience over the last week and a half since last time we talked, though I am not have encountered any dinosaurs on my path. But I have really experienced that like deeper embodiment and that power, that force, like really cutting through the bullshit. Really, it's difficult to explain, really. It's just like it's almost like you're throwing a rock in the ocean, right? And it's just like boom down. It's almost like that in my body, of my own spirit, sort of just like boom, now I'm here. Like this is my path. I'm doing this kind of experience. And also so much with that deeper self-love starting to emerge, which is the most amazing feeling. Because that's a gradual path always, right? It's like, comes and goes, and you take leaps, and then it's like a few short steps, and then now it feels like there's another leap again, which also translates in even deeper compassion for people, even more of an understanding of like where people are coming from. Like walking on the street today, I could really, it's almost like a bubble above their heads, and I can see active stories that they're like running in their minds. I can see their worries. I can see, and I had this really, really interesting experience today, actually. When I walked on the street, and today Oslo is completely out of order. It's chaotic Oslo. Like I've never seen anything like it. People are skiing between the cars on the roads. It's insane. But I saw this person walking on the street, and I saw the thoughts, I saw the narratives, I saw the worries, I saw, all the limitations. And then I had a picture. It was like the way I perceived it was the same way as when a spirit comes in, but this was from a person who's actually alive in war zone, showing me the same kind of mindset, or the same kind, the way I perceived it was the same area in the brain with a mindset, and they are in a refugee camp. But I saw how they were really open to use the creative force, the creation in us, to meet any obstacle, any limitation. And that for me was like, it was mind blowing, because here we are in one of the richest countries in the world, right? And then this is the mindset, sort of, or the spirit coming in and showing me this from that part of the world, teaching me so much. It's, yeah.
So yeah, I keep getting this now is because anybody who's entrenched in a materialist mindset now, right, will be booted and kicked and shown the truth now, basically. And they'll start to experiencing fear, anxiety, worry, and concern for the future now. And that's because their whole family, like us, I mean, it's not that we haven't come through this. Well, I'll talk about me. I haven't come through this because I have, because we're almost like trained and brainwashed into believe that you need as much stuff as you can possibly get, as much money as you can get, as many qualifications as you get. You need to climb the ladder of success and all that. And I can see now that's just bollocks. It's absolute and utter bollocks, And sometimes you have to have it virtually all taken away, right, so that it rebalances so that you can see clearly the other side of the street, or and that's what happened to me. There's no doubt about that. And when I was going through it, it was like hell, but now I'm sort of down here looking back, right? I can see the purpose of this now. And to me, it's all become about, right, the soul's evolution, really, right? But the humans' ascendance into self-actualization and stuff like that, And I gave a talk last night about the psychology of this. But it all seems to be is just tell them, Joe, what you went through, what you've discovered, what's going on with you now. And some people might identify with it, and it might help them sort of escape 10 to 15 years of hell if they can just like pick up what's being said now. And I think that that's what's happening, really. But you talk about brain, so there's a connection. The little chat that we'll have in a second with the PowerPoint is about the brain, and it's about the brainstem, but it's about more than that, because the brain itself and the physical body, right, is the dimension, the human dimension that everything works through. And we've talked about this before. We have to be in it, right. You got to be in it to win it, really. But it's how we process the information that comes from these higher or deeper dimensions, and how we put it into action, because that's the only evidence. The only evidence is what you're doing, not what you're saying, right? Or what you're singing, or what you're doing, all that.
It's your understanding.
Yeah, because when you do it, then you understand it, because you feel it. And this is about what they call felt experience, right? And it's in that process to feel the good, feel the so-called bad, feel everything, because that's where the true understanding comes from, What do you think about that then? Sounds quite good then.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Today, a lot of what's been coming in, it's been like insight after insight. It's been that kind of a day where just like things are just popping in constantly. And I've been seeing the DNA, but I've been seeing it in the cells of the body. And then it's the way it was shown to me was almost like, I mean, obviously walking outside with the snow, I saw the comparison with the seed, that is just buried, and everything that is in our DNA, and all this clearing that we are constantly going through, and embodying how that is about actually activating more of the DNA. And I saw it looked to me, I mean, obviously like this spiral ladder, but I saw the way it was shown to me, I saw like more and more colors coming on in each step of the ladder. And it was like the colors, just talking about it, I start seeing them again. It's amazing. There's so many nuances, and it's so like sparkly kind of quality to the colors. It's amazing. And I saw how much when we're focused, like for example, just hearing me say that, and people go like, oh, I have to like clear, I have my stuff, and I have to go look for my traumas, or I have to and then that is actually a distraction, because just being in the present moment, whatever arises in any moment is the next thing to clear. And we are, even like in the spiritual community, we're so doing the right thing because we know how this works, but it's still a distraction because we go away from the present moment. And I saw like the DNA just laying there, and just like, can you just be present, because then you will actually see me instead of going looking for me. And it was like, yeah.
See, it's almost like we've been talked out of just sitting and waiting for things to come to us. And I think that that's what it is. It's just sitting and allowing this deeper wisdom or intuition and our higher power, or whatever the hell you want to label that, right? Allow it to bring to us the vision, if you like, right, of what needs to be done next. So we allow the management of all these time things, because it's about the management of time and energy, just sitting in the moment. And that's what I did before I came on. About half an hour before, I sat down and I dropped into this place that I go into, and then I started to do with this language that came through, and as I was doing this new one, right, that's when I got the dinosaurs coming in. But it was like the pictures changed, and behind that then, right, I might be having to go back on medication here when I say this, but behind that, I've got these other beings, right, all in white with almost like, and this is what I got. You are the guardian, Joe, of the daughters of Isis. And I said, well, that's very nice there. Thanks very much. yeah, big deal. What does that mean to me now, you know? But I've got this thing and it comes through a lot, you know, and I talk to other friends about this as well, and they pick up apparently the same energy. I have to say, people say these things about me, and I don't feel this about me. I feel like I've got no idea what's going on most of the time. But apparently,
Isn't it like
just
that?
being honest like this,
The
sorry,
more we
go.
understand, the more we also understand that we don't understand anything.
Yeah, true. And
Yeah.
I have to say to people, you know, because they come to me and say, what does this mean? I've got no idea. I've no idea. You know, go and ask yourself. I've got no idea. So, should we put this presentation up then and see what's going on?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. Let me just find the share screen department. Share screen. Okay, oh, there we go. La da dee da da da. La da snow, la da snow, la da snow.
That's the theme song.
It's this week's theme song. So session 3, I think we've called it awesomeness. Go back to there like that. Hang about. Stick that up there like that. Do that like that. Share screen. We'll get there in the end. Share. Can you see that?
Oh, I can see Saturn with its rings.
That's our place in the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, apparently, whatever that means. Whatever, you know, I take everything with a pinch of salt, me. But this week's session, we've called it Learning to Listen, Listening to Learn. And I think what that meant to me was that people think that they take in the information, but generally speaking, they hear something and then they're prepared in the response to it. So they don't hear the full story, really. And that's what I learned about me, is that you need to sit quietly, disengaged to get the full story. But the full picture is also something else that's coming in as well. Because to me, light language is not just about sound. It's very much about vision, but it's also about movement as well, you know. So that's what I'm going to talk about in a sec. It's how we receive this information, how it can activate us into new ways of thinking, but also new ways of moving as well. And I think that that's important, right? And so, oh, Professor again, session 3. There we go. You can say with the University of we'll think of a unit, the University of the Dwarf Galaxy or something like that. So just to put this back up again, this is something I've got from what's called Keylontic science. And to me, it means a lot to me. But in here, we've got the figure of the human being. The human being, what this is really is, it's basically represents the 4 dimensions, right? Or the 4 densities, actually, of what it is to be fully human. So we've got 4 dimensions or 4 densities, and that's body, mind, soul, and spirit. So I do it in 4s. So these 4 quadrants, right? But the Earth one, it's not associated with Gaia, the Earth one. I might have said this last week. It's actually associated with something called Terra. And Terra, Terra, terra firma, is to have your feet firmly planted on the ground. So that's the physical dimension. But then we move into the mind component then, and that becomes something called Tara. So we go from Terra to Tara. And the mind really is when we move into the 4th, the 3.5 to the 4th dimension. So in the first density, we've got the first 3 dimensions. That's the 3D world. And then when we move up to Tara then and the mind, we move then into a more astral sort of thing, a more etheric one, to do with consciousness and processing information. And then we move into the department of the soul, and that's really when the soul activates. However, if we're still afraid and we're still working from egocentric principles, we just get revolved again back into the 3D, you see. But what's happening now, more and more people are being given the opportunity to just sit quietly. And in that silence, through mindfulness and through meditation, they'll almost like be dragged up into the next dimensions as well. So I'll just go on to that. So we get into the soul then, and that's what's called a spiritual awakening. And that's the dimension of Gaia. So that's Gaia. It's basically the soul's consciousness that interacts with the Mother Earth's consciousness as well. And then when we're really tootling along and we're working from this higher understanding, then we move into more inspiration. And that's called Aramatena, really. And it's so in that there's 3 different sub dimensions, right? And there's 12 possibilities. But just to go back here, I found this little tool here. Let me do this. I need to do this because like a proper person. If we look here, we can see that this is where it's all happening. This is the focal point. Don't you think that's good? I've been playing around with this today. I thought that's good.
Even the right chakra color.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And how funny you should say that, right? Want to keep your ink annotations? No, I'll get shut of that. Oh, what have I done? Oh, my swine. Hang on. Oh, let me go back. Let me go back. What sort of a fool is this? There he is. I'll go back again. Okay, so are we back?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're looking at this person here, and we go back to what we talked about last week. Is this is now the 12 dimensional, the 12 sphere tree of life, and each one of these spheres here represents a different frequency. It represents a different level of consciousness. And when I say level of consciousness, I don't mean level, I mean a different dimension of consciousness. Let's talk about that, because I'm not going to go into higher or lower, because sometimes these base ones can be equally as important as these top ones up here. So all these different sorts of spheres here represent dimensions of consciousness. And this represents the human mind. And as has been said, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. Well, it's almost like these are separate mansions with different gifts and capabilities in them. However, there's this bit here in the middle. So there's 12 here. This one here is the 13th dimension. So as I mentioned last week, is 12 plus 1. This is the 1. This is the 1. And we have to get into this one because that's what it represents. Did you like that then?
Lovely.
When I put this on, I think it even looked like a butterfly. That was good, that, yeah. So the idea would be is as we open our heart, what actually happens is we start to gain more access to these different dimensions of consciousness. Now, this is a sort of expanded version of the 12 10 sphere tree of life, the Kabbalistic 10 sphere, because we've been sort of reconnected to 2 missing spheres now. So we're back into sort of alignment, or the possibilities of alignment now. And if you just look, this sphere here connects to this one here. So when you work with these 2 spheres and you work with the different frequencies and tones and colors and fragrances, then you actually develop this skill here from there to there. And that's about groundedness, it's about courage, it's about strength. But you can go, look, this is called path work in this, by the way. You can actually work with this sphere here and this one over here. And when you actually work with these 2, you develop another skill. And that's basically what's actually happening now across the planet. You can even work with this one, go straight up to the top one, and you can connect those as well. And you can do that by toning, by using different tones, different frequencies, different colors, different smells of incense. So you can use aromatherapy, different tastes. All these things enhance the connection. And when you're fully then able to go to anywhere on here, you will be considered to be totally enlightened and totally free. I don't know whether this is making sense, but that's where we're moving towards. However, how do you know which one to work with? You have to go into your heart and say to your heart, will you please guide me as to what to work on next, please? Okay. But here's the next thing, Kristin, is if you look at this, this is representative of the human body as well. Because when we come in here, this is where we're born. So that's the one way in. And that's when we die. That's the one way out. This is to do with the adrenal glands. This is to do with the pineal gland up here. And there's all these others in between. And so this is almost like a skull cap. I'll explain as I go on in a second. I don't know whether this is making any sense. By all means, well done, Miller. I'll get your name right, Miller. Well done, Miller. So the next one, this is basically, again, this is almost like Syrian language, this, which represents the 4 quadrants. And if you look at that shiny Syrian star there, really, this is almost like a skull cap, this. So you can imagine this was a cloth cap and you put it over the crown of your head. There's all sorts of different directions you can go in here. This will become a bit clearer in a second. But this is about working with these 4 quadrants, and they're basically 4 coordinates. So this looks 2D, but in actual fact, this is a sphere, and it represents our brain inside our skull, really. And so also we'll see here that this here is also representative of the 12 major sounds as well, the 12 keys. So this is also the keys that represent access points to different parts of the brain. So this is in the morphic fields, and this is where sound vibrations come in. But there we are, right? Because this is also important as well. And these are basically the 12 colors, or the 12 major colors, right? And what we can actually do is, with the help and guidance of our heart and soul, we can actually find out what colors we need to work with and what sounds we need to work with. And by using both of those with fragrances and with tastes and stuff like that, and also, very important, with movement as well, because we get guided when spirit moves us, and we have to sort of surrender and let go completely and be moved from the inside, while using the different colors of various frequencies, the different sounds at various frequencies, and movements as well. And that then de-obstructs us, and it opens the channels to these different levels and dimensions of intelligence, because these are basically 12 different intelligences. Right, so I'll just explain more now. This is where it becomes really good, because I got this today. I thought, wow, this is fascinating. So here's what's going on with inside our skull. And you can see here that if we put that 12 point things on here, this bottom one here, this is the brain stem. And as we develop in consciousness, so we're born here, we're born with our instincts here. But if we go up, look, there's actually a place in the brain called the pyramids. And I thought, wow, isn't that great? Right. And up here, we've got the pons. And what pons means, it means bridge. And these are also the connections to the 12 cranial nerves. There's actually 10 here, but we've got the optic nerve here, number 2. And then we've got actually the sense of smell, which is the most important sense, because it helps us to sense out danger. You know, when you can smell something fishy or smell something doesn't smell right. So this is how the 12 cranial nerves, this is what our head looks like. There's the right hemisphere, there's the left hemisphere. It's all connected to this. However, we're not all perfectly aligned when we're born. So what we need to do is we will be guided by our heart and soul to work on various realignment pathways. Is this making some sort of sense so far? Okay. And what will happen is, what's supposed to happen is, we move from here to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then whoop, up we go, out. That was a very interesting human life. I think I'll come back and take another one next time. You know, so we come with a whole set of misalignments that are basically imprinted in our soul, right, in order for our soul and our human body to work together to free us from all these sorts of things. So it's almost like being on the holodeck and picking out a sort of adventure that we can beam down into, really. But the idea with beers, we beam down to Earth. We've got to make our way through this Jacob's ladder almost back to heaven. So it's our job, really, to meet the challenges, meet the feelings, meet the adventures, a bit like Jason and the Argonauts, or the heroes or heroines' journey. So this is our skull.
Can you say that that the soul or the spirit that we are actually imprint our blueprint from the Akashic in the brain.
Yeah.
And so it will sort of play out.
Yeah. So it's imprinted in our neural architecture, right? So we chose that. So it imprints, and so all of us. So you see, for example, that's why there's no sort of general scheme that we need to work on. We have to know ourselves. We have to tune in and say, where do I need to work here now? And we'll be guided. You need to work on sphere 10 today. Well, what's sphere 10? Well, it's associated with the throat, right? This is the throat here, right? Is it the throat? No, that might be the throat. Could be the pituitary gland. But it's this connection here. We might have to work with number 10, and therefore we might be a person who doesn't like to say anything. We'll be put into situations where we have to start expressing ourselves to say, I'm not having this. And when we start to do that, the energetic structure, the soul, realigns with our physical body then. So we start to straighten up in a way, you know. And some people might need to shut up, right, and say nothing and listen more. You know, there's so many different things here. But how do we know what to work on? We have to allow our intuition to guide us, not some sort of external thing. So this is about knowing ourselves and knowing our feelings and knowing when we're being guided from within. And it's all about learning discernment, really. And as we do this and the 12 cranial nerves start to work, we get 12 senses to work with. One of them's balance, one of them's smell, one, you know, all sorts of different things. But it's associated with different areas of the brain. Medicine has got no idea of this at all, right, at the moment. But it will do very, very quickly. It'll start to get an understanding of this. So if we look here, there's almost like a dual pattern here, like DNA, you know, and the spirals and stuff like this. Can't remember what's on the next slide. I'll have a look. It'll surprise me more than anybody else. Oh yeah, and so let me just go back to this one. So as we start to realign this here, right, in the etheric dimensions and working with the soul in the morphic fields, it then translates. It comes here where the processing's going on, and it sends information down back through our brainstem through this system here. So we go from a magnetic energy and subtle energies. As I mentioned last week, we have a magneto-electric effect. Sometimes it's called a charismatic effect. It's like healing vibrations start flushing through, but they know the directions to go on. So for example, you might have problems with your left shoulder, right? If you then go into your soul, dip into it and ask, please give me or show me what I need. As you get good at this, you get a color, you get a sound, and you get a movement to actually help the energy to come through and flush out. I can see by your face that you're liking this, right? That's good. Yeah. And so we can work here, you see.
Of that?
Fun?
May I give an example of that?
Of course.
It's that you say left shoulder, because as you know, I've been on I was on a 9-year healing journey.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happened on that journey was that my left shoulder got completely locked. It was not a frozen shoulder, but it was similar. So I had very suddenly no movement at all. I could move my arm maybe like 10 degrees forward, and I had no outward rotation at all. And I was at the Sports Medicine Institute, where they're like the best doctors and therapists in Norway. And I said that what would be needed to be done was to break open the joint during anesthesia, because it was completely fastened. There was like no possible movement when they tested either. And I was like, you know, I was so far away on my or been on my journey for some years, so I knew what is actually possible in the body. So I asked, will this be like, you know, bigger, like what would like injury, you know, later in my life if I use some time to work on it? And I said, no, it's just not happening, and it will be impossible to do anything without a help. I said, can you give me half a year and I'll try to work on it myself? And he was like, you know, you just come back whenever and you tell me to write the paper to the hospital and we get this going. And so I started working with meditations. Specifically, I had done that a lot, you know, during my healing journey, but I started working specifically with my left shoulder. And then I had this sudden memory in one of my meditations of how because I used to be a competitive dancer. And when I was dancing, I used to watch, you know, the professionals on videos, and I was just like feeling it in my body. And then I could, because the more I could get like the feeling of how they were moving, the more I would be able to do the same and, or, you know, move towards it when I was moving my body. And I was like, why am I not doing that when I'm healing my body as well? So I started then, besides working with the meditations and focusing all the energy on my left shoulder, I started also, because obviously as I wasn't able to move it at all, I was just standing there and I was using the sun salutation in yoga. And I couldn't, as I wasn't moving my left arm, I was doing the whole breathing and I was only using my right arm. And I was just with my eyes closed, just breathing through and imagining myself doing the sun salutation, just to start teaching my body. Because I was like, this is what I did when I was dancing. This must work somehow, you know, to teach my body that this is it's supposed to do. And after some months, suddenly in a meditation, I was completely taken out. It happens sometimes. I mean, it takes like maybe 20 meditations, and then there's a meditation where I have a profound experience, and then it can be, you know, 30 normal meditations again. So it takes you need a consistency. But then in that meditation, I was suddenly taken out. I couldn't hear anything around me. I saw this group of beings around me. There were different beings, and I saw my body in the center. And then I experienced my spirit going out of the body and being a part of the circle. So I saw only my body sort of empty in the middle. And I saw all this light coming in, and I felt physically very warm as that happened. It was very white light. And I remember that on the opposite side of the circle, there was this the energy was similar to an ascended master. I don't know who it is, but I was seeing him like straight in the eyes as this whole thing was going on. And after that happened, I saw my body being moved into some sort of like liquid light lake almost. I saw my whole body moving into that sort of liquid light and being there and then coming up. And then I saw it moving into the circle again. I saw my spirit coming into my body. And then suddenly I was like back in my room and I was super confused. I was like, what the heck just happened? What was this? Like something must have happened because I was completely gone. I had no sense of, you know, time and physicality at all. And then I was thinking, was this like some kind of a healing, you know, when the mind starts running again? And then I was just like doing like this, and I felt it was really intense pain around my scapula, the shoulder blade. I was like, it's probably not supposed to be even worse after an experience like that. So I was a bit confused, and I was doing the meditation lying down, and then I got up from my bed, and I just, started doing this, and it was like this massive crack, and I got nauseous. It was awful. And then I was like, did something just happen? And I started moving my arm, and I could move my arm maybe like 40, 45 degrees forward. That was just insane. And from there, I just continued doing it, then when I had some movement, I started breathing, moving my arm. And then 3 weeks later, I was back with a doctor. And he said, oh, how is it going? Are you ready to get a paper now? Being a bit funny. And I was like, I have a surprise for you. And I was moving my arm, to the 45 degrees where I got it at a point. And he looked like he had fallen off the shelf. Like he was just like, how did you do it? What happened? And I answered, I meditated. And he was like, whatever you're doing, just keep on doing it. You don't need this. And now, this is my shoulder now. There's no problem.
See,
so funny you said like right now or left shoulder in your example.
Well, the left shoulder is important, and maybe as we go on through the weeks, we can talk about, because I think we're going to be talking about connective tissue again and trigger points. because
Yes.
there's one particular trigger point, the cardiac trigger point, right?
Mm.
And if we go back into all the old stuff, really, and it's being washed away now, there's a lot of seals that get put on, right, in the past, they're called Jehovah's seals or J seals, but we can use the power of the heart now to flush those out with all these different things, So what I'm saying here is we can do some body mapping, but the important thing is we have to just sit with ourselves long enough for the intuition and the inspiration to guide us. Because I'm not saying don't listen to expert external advice, but sit it in your heart and see if it rings true or resonates with what your soul's trying to guide you forward. And this is all part of growing in faith and confidence, isn't it, really? Of trusting yourself at depth. So what I'm saying to people is, if they've got pain in any particular part of the body, if you go into your heart and say, look, I don't know what to do here, but could you give me some information or some sort of guidance as to what I need to do to maybe start to remove this pain now? Because any pain is simply an obstruction to the flow of unconditional love through our physical body. And what we're doing now is, if we can surrender completely and get our heads out of the way, our soul is basically infiltrating our physical body through the mechanisms I've just described. Let me just explain it again. Let me go back to this. So it's basically our consciousness. This is our mind working through the various aspects of our physical brain, which is then sending information to the various parts of our body through this electricity system. This is just a wiring diagram, really. And what actually happens then is these wires then will feed our musculature, right, and our somatovisceral, posh words. And so our skin, our muscles, our myofascial tissue, but our organs as well. So I'll say this, I have to go in with a sort of an attitude of, I don't know what to do here. Can you please try and guide me as to the next move? And sometimes the pain can be in the back. There's a particular area here, right, by the scapula, the levator scapulae muscle, that gets blocked because that's part of something called the pranic or splenic triangle. And believe it or not, it's associated, that point at the back there is associated with the heart and the spleen as well. But that's a story for another day. And there's the front.
I would love to go into that. This is super interesting. I would love to.
Yeah, well, we'll maybe I'll try and knock something off for next week and see how it goes. But it's all to do with, anyway, I won't digress too much, but it could be at the front as well. So what's actually happening is, as the shift in consciousness and the flow increases, the information coming in from our minds into our brain is increasing. That's why some people may be experiencing more and more pain, because it's an indication from our soul to say, you've got more pain because you need to work on the area that I'm trying to show you. Now, if you go to a remedial massage therapist or a sports whatever, they may suggest something that might actually make things worse because they don't know the sequence of events like your soul does. So this is about trusting your heart and soul to guide you, right? And sometimes it's difficult because we can have an external fight with, an external person, but our soul keeps shouting out louder to say, will you please listen to me? So that's how the transmission system goes. This is something that Bob Wilson sent us both. All right.
Yes.
And so what I saw a misaligned body, right?
Yes.
I saw
So
a
did I.
misaligned body. And also when the energy comes in, now it's almost like represents me, this, because there's a scoliosis there. I was born with scoliosis and congenital hip problems as well. So I've always had problems with my hips and my spine. I've still got scoliosis, but over the years, I've been able to use these techniques that we're talking about now to straighten my spine up a lot, and so I was always physically weak and almost like physically sort of disabled actually as a kid. Which took a lot from me. So I've almost like been guided by spirit to work through a lot of physical stuff like you, right? And a lot of it was associated with fear. A lot of it was associated with arrogance, all sorts of stuff. So, and this is something my friend in Belgium, I put this up here because she said, this reminds me of you. And I thought, cheeky swine. So Kuan Yin, if you're listening to us, thank you for this. I love you with all my heart and soul. Right, let me come out. What's my last one? That's it. So that was good, wasn't it? I enjoyed that really, and I think I'm getting more and more and more information as we go along. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to show me, I think, right, how to use the color wheel. It's almost like a sort of, you talked about primary school before and the wheel going round and the wheel of fortune and the arrow pointing to use this one. So it might be a root chakra one. So it could be red color, or it could be a deep tone, could be some frankincense or sandalwood because they're the earth and smells, and it could be a pork pie to have after it. I don't know, whatever. But this is all about, as far as I'm concerned, getting to know yourself at the deepest levels. And people are dropping more and more into the depth, and more stuff and intelligence and inspirations emerging from the depths, or that's what seems to be happening. So if you're in pain, it's a good sign that there's something that needs deobstructing. And when you find out what it is, there'll be a lesson that goes with it or an experience. And as you go through the experience and take the right actions, more power and more flow will come in. Your consciousness will expand, and it will give you more courage and confidence to go forward.
Yes.
And here's the other thing big thing is, and take no shit, right?
Yes.
That's what I've been getting is cut the crap, take no shit. Just go forward in what you feel is correct for you. Don't harm anybody else, but don't allow anybody else now to stop you taking one strong step at a time as you go forward in your old soul's purpose and your soul's mission. I've got Preacher Joe with me again now.
I love it. I love it. It's all limitations are in the mind. And if there, like you said now, if there's someone like that you're letting you stop you, see where in the mind are you actually giving your power away? Because it's always somewhere you're giving your power away. So even in those experiences, the same with the pain in the body, whether it's even an entity coming in, see where is the hook, where is it coming in? You don't need to like protect yourself and shield yourself. You just find out where there is like a vacancy in your field, and you see it. The same with your mind. If there's anyone else, okay, this is a chance for me to see where I'm giving my power away, because otherwise I wouldn't react in this way or had this experience or feel so limited or controlled or guilty or whatever is triggered in us. It's really a sign back in, so that we can embody more, become more aware, and keep expanding.
And we've talked before about it's almost like repairing a puncture from the inside.
Yes.
When there's a hole and we're leaking, if you like, into, our ore is leaking or whatever however you want to explain that, it's almost like that's leaking energy away all the time. We just need to plug it up from the inside by understanding and taking the actions as well. And the other thing is as well, and I'll keep saying it because it was said to me, if you point the finger out that way there's always three fingers coming back at you, right? And as you point the finger like that, that's the victim consciousness finger. That's looking at external events saying they're causing me all this trouble. No, they're not. It's the way that you're processing the information and acting upon it that's causing you the problems. It's hard, this, but it's called growing up. But it's not growing up and now you need to grow up here. It's not that. It's growing up, to me, means ascending, but I don't sort of believe in ascending. I sort of believe more in expanding rather than ascending, really.
Yes.
Can you feel any of our visitors coming in? I don't know.
Oh, they've been here since
Yeah.
since the start.
I get like, this is what I'm getting out. They're behind me, like doing this. Hey, hey, very good, son. Very good. That was very good. Carry on the good work. And it makes me feel great. And, whether I'm making it up or not, I don't know, but it feels really, really good,
Yes, and as you're saying that, I'm seeing again this this picture of the ladder in the DNA and all these colors. And it looks like there's different beings on different color coming in. So it's like they're resonating on different levels of the DNA, different points in the DNA. It's really fascinating. It's like it's like a map of thousands of beings. It's
Well, do you know what
I
I've
wish
got?
I could just like put the picture out or be able to even draw, so I could draw it out, but
Well, I've got gnomes, loads of gnomes, right? But the Smurfs, remember the Smurfs? All different colour Smurfs with those funny hats on and stuff like that, you know.
yes.
Right. So I think just to recap and reiterate, it's not just about tones and sound. The sound does direct the light. There's no doubt about that, because the light came from the sound, or you know, I feel that and know that to be true. But we can use our breath now and sounds guided by our own light language and spheres. They'll come through. I've been sort of suggested to say this: if you want to allow the light language to come through and guide you now, there are certain techniques that you can do. And basically, it's basically about relaxing your jaw, relaxing your throat, and just gently start to vibrate your throat with a humming, right?
Mm.
But the other thing that you can do as well is you can wiggle your eyes back and forward and almost like detach your eyes, because when you're fixated on something, that actually blocks the energy. So it's almost like wiggling your eyes so that you're not actually focusing on something externally, and sort of almost like get a feeling that your eyes and your ears, where they actually connect to this point here, are sort of relaxed. And then you can do the humming. But another important thing is, and this is the key, is a light-hearted feeling. It's to play around with it and then see what comes. And there's absolutely nothing at all to be worried about. In fact, I would say, you know, if it comes through, you'll have such a feeling of gratitude. This is how it works with me, that you'll start to be guided by it then. Right, I'll shut up now, Kristin, and see what happens. Can I just stop you for 1 second? And sorry to be a pain. If you go to the left-hand side of your screen, at the top left-hand side, it says original sound for musicians. If you click that on, apparently it will allow those high frequencies and the low ones to come through. Sorry to do
that. Where did you say? On the top?
It's top left-hand side. On mine, it says original sound for musicians on and off.
It
Or
doesn't.
okay. Have you got anywhere that says to do with sounds or anything? Because Ernestine told me last week that the both of us have to have this on, otherwise it will cut the high frequency and the low ones out.
Let me see. Audio settings, maybe here. And you said it was called?
It's to do with sound for musicians.
That's hard to say. Original sound for musicians?
That's the one, yeah. If you click that on, apparently we'll be able to get the high notes and the low notes now, because I can feel the low one coming in again here. So sorry.
I'll just learn something new.
Ie kosori moto kravshendie. Hora tuchme hatur se in kurishma la kodo suri man oramatach na het. Horian ot asadu.
Lero oro chulo ko niera ko ai kata ra ka turu chulo ka te ko ai tru ka te ka ara lere ta ka poro chulo te ara ta re te in chuanka.
Mi kosi kere mi hora techne hauritji suri nira patotushma ad och ansariat mot sheliam do mwazatik no.
Lero chulo ka te ra ta hai e chulo ko ra te tu ik tik aro tu amaler ta in chera ka ta apa yara tu haik.
Ma kosse siemu kuratat sirkalak tuktisarin katek somtak tahatat harktak tsindrava rut mehedreki horantek deshe. Accurisium tosh ala tonni krapapne serikarmiitru. Horridem serirokni eller fishne adru sibra unterlachsetter ode machwa.
Oler tjurken er att ab orutu eller tjurken akidre tjur.
Ma kosi ma hotrabu sibra hadru gun esalaman yikhukhasane.
Rechlerket er att ab rechlerket rut lerket e karata.
Hola yo yo. Boyo ya yo samayo. Ho 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 ho.
Ele como ele tjur e por
Majo kola sapniko. Hole ya yamakora salamuya. Mulo da sapneko. Lato ko sapniko. Moyo tababwa. Wa.
Oler att och I am har to undersöka. Tror ka eller gå bara to eller am to ner och åker att I ka to eller to är ka.
Amesu tiekaram. Ko sidi amonta panas. Hora tam tiraba serurima. Lotan saria tochima grama tunchiratesh. Halatut samaraderi. Rotne edrut mat verhut.
Cher ora arotura teruklar kutu korrekt kachar ko ai era ta amai o era ta ai kshu ka ai korrekt ko ai era cher ka ko ai era tu at tu at tu lit eaka.
Ma kasurium te shale tirtu samoa qua. Kora samtadish aknukhata sreya. Lat shela samboa. Nakatsa titua.
Rekete.
Makata.
Uika.
Nakasoria. Makasurium ma waza.
Uika.
Suriotomo te kafa jua. Akkuri.
Eaka ara ta eaka. Solor ko anarata. Wala cher knelar o atarata era cher kana eaka. Tulor ko anarata eaka. Tulor slur ma eaka. Walk in era ta era cherele intiaka.
Makasurium qua. Hala sudden intrasisha anto gufa na she. Sa enyuto ko fa san de karate ko sumdra neke. Sabragatakan takna ukrama. Shrutum ote exauri. Nakorutun tersapte hedden dikutnesa.
Ter loro cherke nelere tuanta.
Matakate.
Kede eka.
Metiskurum taknete. Jetame.
Ui, kraka. Qua era eka.
I am done for. Oh dear. on that. Ooh, I've got lightheadedness and everything going on now. It's like my brain's spinning around in my head. So on that last bit there was a purple flame, a purple violet flame that was coming out as that. And I always know that it's directly connected, if you like, to spirit, because I keep breathing out without taking a breath, and it just keeps going. You know what I mean? And that what that does to me later is it's almost like a clearance, that as well. So I'll probably feel the effect of that later on.
Wow, I saw. I'm just trying to like put everything together because my brain is like a bit all over the place right now. It's what I experienced first was like different points in the body being like worked on. That's the way I experienced them in my body. And then it was like it was opening, and then I saw these two beings, which looked almost like just similar to a human body, and just like a drawing. And they were standing one on each side, because I was saying like how it was like to a certain point where I could see that everything is opening to the multidimensionality. And from there I could see just, I guess, universes or galaxies is what we would call it, but it looks very different than what I've been shown before. And then it was almost like this, there was this one being there and one being there, one on the right and one on the left, standing with their hand like this. And then it was a DNA spiral on it, almost like they were like just presenting it, almost like they were standing by a door with this DNA spiral. And it looked both like the hemispheres of the brain, and it looked like different universes. And so the experience, like when it started connecting in the end, was how the sound is opening really like the DNA or the different parts of our bodies, and also opening in different ways at different sides of the brain. And from there, how those two brains are almost like two halves of the brains are like two different universes or galaxies, and how they have each like a different type of access to the DNA, or sort of guarding, because they almost felt like gods, like guarding different parts of the DNA. But then from there, behind them, when you first like get to that point, everything was one. Like then it was only one huge universe. I don't know if it makes sense when I'm saying it out loud, but
it makes perfect sense to me, because it's confirmation. Because what I get is all the tubes connecting the hemispheres as well, but it's the central point really. When the central point's going like that, it's almost like that's what brings all the tubes together. So there's a reunification of the divided brain, which is similar to yin yang, black white, masculine feminine, you know. So there's like a divine sort of reconnection and reunion taking place. But it's because the central core, the central energy, the golden child energy, the whatever you want to call that, you know, it's that really that's actually drawing these both parts together. But as they start to come together, there's a bit of what's called cognitive dissonance, because this has got ideas, this has got ideas. So they're doing a bit of that first, but in the end, they sort of merge together. I see I've got like sparks taking place now and soldering taking place, almost like if they're being soldered and reconnected together now. So there's like a great big, it's like it's just like an electrical diagram really of this happening together. Yes. So that's going on. What I get suggest as well, Joe, that things like Tai Chi, right, and Qigong, and gentle exercise and movement and slow dance and then fast dance if you want, whatever you feel like doing, is just get your body going. If you can afford to have connective tissue massages and stuff like that, that would be good as well. Aromatherapy oils are fantastic, you know, but excuse me, try and get a feeling first and foremost of what's the best way, please, for me to go forward here. And if you do it with a sort of feeling of devotion, I'm not being religious here, but a feeling of devotion and a feeling of sacredness. See, I've got this is behind me now. it's almost that feeling will open you up more and more information's coming through. So again, cultivate an inner smile and cultivate an attitude of gratitude. And if you get a grip when I say that, that definitely means that you need to work on that.
I love that you bring in the devotion, because in the gene keys,
Yeah.
one of my gene keys, the one that has to do with health, is about devotion. So
Yeah,
I love that.
So and somebody asked here really, if we planned this life before we came here, does that mean it's all mapped out? And somebody explained this to me as it's almost like a monkey riding on an elephant, right? Right. And the elephant, it's got its way to go. And the monkey keeps trying to say, can we go left here? And it may for a while, but in the end, it'll go back on the path. So what that means is at one level and one timing, it's about divine timing. The monkey is basically our destiny. No, not the monkey. The elephant is the destiny that's just plodding on, really. And the monkey is the one that's always trying to get it, right, to go in a different direction. And somebody else said it's like yoga as well, the two bulls and the driver, in the end, Ida wants to go one way, Pingala wants to go another. But in the end, when the driver gets good, he can just do a little bit of a tap here so that they both work in harmony and go on the right path and stuff. There's loads and loads of different symbols. And also, the other thing is, light language communication. That means the use of sound and light and movement and drawing and everything else. It's called the art and science of semiotics, it's called, if anybody wants to go into that. So there's a science behind this, really, and it's all about reunification. So there we are, darling. It's 10 past the hour.
Already?
It's been lovely. Yeah, it's been lovely. I get so much out of this, and I find it hard to go to sleep after this because my head's like whizzing with all sorts of different stuff. But what's happening to me now is I'm getting much, much clearer pictures now.
Yeah.
And I've got that mob behind me now. It's very hard to explain, but they're like nuns. They're like I can't explain it. They're like nuns, but there's like a masculine side to them as well, and they've almost like got a sort of a grey, but it's more brown. I don't know. I don't know what it means. I don't care. I just know that in some way I'm being guided by higher or deeper intelligences that have my best interests at heart. That's why I feel now. I don't feel any apprehension about anything that comes in now. Even the scary looking ones are all here to help me. That's how I feel.
Definitely. I feel as well, I feel there's so much opening in the solar plexus lately, and it feels so freeing, and it's almost like this, like I can sit on the couch and I can just be, reading something or just, watching or listening to whatever, and suddenly it's like I just feel my body wants to move, and I just stand up on the floor and it starts moving. And before I was supposed to have a dance practice today, which did not happen because Oslo was covered in way too much snow. And then as I was just moving, just a bit intuitively first, and then I put on some music and I started, really, really like nerding a bit on musicality and movement, because I absolutely love that. And then I just started, just to feel like what is actually happening. Like when I feel this thing from the music, and I want to like respond with this thing, or it makes me feel this thing and I want that to come out. I was like, what is actually happening in my body? Where am I actually feeling this? And I just from that, suddenly it was 1.5 hours had passed, and I was like, oh, I need to make a workshop on this. And like it just like happens. It was not planned at all, but it starts unfolding.
I'm having a lot of that type of stuff. Is I get a sort of suggestion of the direction that I'm going in, but sometimes my mind goes, oh, maybe I'm going there, and I know that that's a trap for me now. So I have to reel myself back and say, okay, just show me what I need to do now. And as you say, an hour can go by and you think, I wonder where I was in that hour then, and stuff like that,
Yes.
Right, darling, I'll have to go then and wash the dishes and do all those sorts of things, And thanks very much. So I'll be in touch soon and we'll do our next one. But just to anybody who's watching, if you want us to try and cover anything, if you feel, then please put it in the comments. Or if you've got any hints or tips for us, because my feeling is that we're all learning this thing together here. Nobody's got a full handle on this at all. So by all means, if you want to be constructively critical, we don't care. We've got broad shoulders, haven't we, Kristin?
Oh, we do. We love growth, don't we?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Bring it on, bring it on. Right.
Yeah.
So, and you'll notice there hasn't been any swearing in this as well, because that's something that seems to be leaving me as well, which is probably a good thing. So, on that, may the force and forces remain with you, and I love you like mad, and
Love you too. I really.
And I'll speak to you when the time is right. And thanks very much, everybody, for listening. Toodle pip. Bye bye. Bye bye.